Okay, so this is multiplication and division of integers. In other words, bottom line, we're multiplying and dividing with positive and negative numbers. That's really what it amounts to. In order to do this, there are some rules, okay? And I'm going to put the rules up as we go along. So the first rule is that if I have a negative multiplied by a positive, or a positive multiplied by a negative, it's always going to be negative. Okay, so doesn't matter the order, it's always going to be negative. Negative 8 times positive 4 is going to be a negative 32. Okay, negative 32. I'll write it down over here so that you've got it. If you are struggling in any way with the actual multiplication, you probably just want to practice your times tables. That's all. Okay, got it? Next one. 3 times negative 5. So I have a positive 3 times a negative 5. So I have a positive number multiplied by a negative. What's that always going to be? Negative. And then 3 times 5 is 15. Done with that one. Good? Got yours? Knock it out. Next one. We have a new rule. If I have a negative multiplied by another negative, it's always going to be positive. So, in my problem here, I have a negative 7 times a negative 8. Two negatives multiplied become positive based on our rules, and 7 times 8 is 56. What is the piece that is going to hang up most students? Times tables. If you don't know your times tables, you got to practice them. Otherwise, it's going to be the thing that hangs you up. Are these negative positive sign rules that hard? No. But what is hard for students is the times tables part if you don't have it memorized. Next. 3 times 9. Well, that one's straightforward, but I'll write it down anyways. We know that any positive number times another positive number produces the same result as two negatives being multiplied. Those, of course, are going to be positive, aren't they? Right? So 3 times 9, well, you've got two positive numbers. For sure, they're going to end up positive 27. So the only reason why somebody might get this one wrong is if you just don't know your times tables. Okay? Now, this one is another rule. If I have anything times 0, the answer is always 0. Anything times 0 is 0. So if I have, in this case, negative 15 times 0, the answer is 0. Straightforward. No big deal. Okay. Now, anything times 1 is always that anything. But you always need to pay attention to your signs. So what I have in this problem is negative 12 times negative 1. Now, remember, what does the rule say? Anything times 1 is that anything. But I have to factor in my signs here. What are my signs? Two negatives, which make it positive. So anything times 1 is anything, but if you see signs, you better take into account the rules associated with those signs. In this case, I had two negatives being multiplied, which means they are going to become a positive. Okay? All right, let's look at the next one. Negative 6 times a negative 4 times a positive 9. Next rule is to work left to right. Work left to right. Work left to right. So that means negative 6 times negative 4. Just work that part first. Don't get overwhelmed. Just work it in pairs individually. So I'll throw that out here in pairs. What's negative 6 times negative 4? It's a positive 24, because I know my rules and I know my times tables. Now, bring down that 9, and I got one more problem to go. 24 times 9. Now, I'm going to actually have to go do that off to the side. So 24 times 9, 9 times 4 is 36, 18, 216. So you may need to definitely work on your times tables if that's tricky for you. I don't blame you. Again, if you notice here, 7 problems in, what is the only thing that's really going to mess people up? Times tables. The mastery of your times tables is going to make or break you in these sections. So you've got to pay close attention, and if you don't know them, go download an app for times tables and just practice it. It'll help you. Okay? Next. Let's do this one. Same concept, different layout. Why do I say same concept, different layout? Because that also means multiply. All those numbers are side by side by side. All you got to do is still work left to right in pairs. What's 2, positive 2, times negative 7? Well, the rule says if I have a positive times a negative, it's going to be a negative. So 2 times negative 7 is going to be negative 14. And then I'm going to need to multiply that by positive 3. Remember, left to right in pairs. Well, negative times a positive, I know for sure that's going to make my answer negative. I've got a negative 14 times a positive 3. I know for sure my answer is going to be negative. Now I just need to figure out what 14 times 3 is. There's a 12, 3, 42. So, negative 42. Again, times tables, times tables, times tables, over and over and over again. All right, number 9. Before you start getting all wound up and working left to right, you should probably always overview the problem before you get going. If you do a quick glance at the problem before you even get going, what do you realize is going to happen in this problem? The answer is going to become 0. Great. Left to right, left to right, left to 0. So this is going to end up happening no matter what, isn't it? So it's irrelevant what you do beforehand. You know without a doubt the answer to this problem is going to be 0 because by the time you get to here, you're going to end up having to multiply by 0. That, no matter what work was done beforehand, anything times 0 is 0. Okay? All right, next. Okay, so let's go through these. I'm not going to go and type in the answers. I'm actually going to answer each one up top here to help you. I'm going to throw out some rules for you as we go through them. We're going to do this first one here. First rule says anything over itself is always 1. Look at this. Anything over itself is always 1. Got it? Next rule. Anything over 1 is always that anything. 35 over 1 is going to be 35. And we actually learned that last section because we went from here to here. This is the same concept. Anything over 1 is that anything, but the reason why they did this one is to make sure you knew that it also includes the sign. Finally, anything over itself is always 1. Why did they do that one? They wanted to make sure that you understood a negative divided by negative is a positive. Make sense? Got it? And sure enough, still, anything over itself exactly itself is going to be 1. Even if you didn't know the negative rule, which you should, it's still going to be 1. Okay? We good? Ready to move on? Please stop me if I need to slow down for you. We okay? All right, next. Let's do this next batch, shall we? All right. Next round of rules. 0 divided by anything is always going to be 0. There's this one. Anything else that falls into that category? This one as well. Isn't that true? Part D, 0 divided by anything. Part A, 0 divided by anything. Follow me? Okay. B and C. Anything over 0. Anything over 0. The other direction. Anything over 0 is known as being undefined. I'm going to abbreviate that there. Undefined. So, look at my choices here in my answers. B, the expression is undefined. It's a little hard to see, but you see it there. This would be undefined. I'll just use a U here. Undefined. Got it? Okay, make that note. Here it is. Any questions about that at all? All right, submit your answers. Let me know if you have questions. Got it? All right. Let's move on to the next round of rules. Well, not even rules, problems. So, in order to do this, which is now division, all you got to do is take the same multiplication rules and just say the same thing applies for division. A negative divided by a positive divided by a negative, still negative. A positive divided by a positive, a negative divided by a negative, is still positive. So while these are laid out as multiplication rules, the same concept applies for division. Let's look at this one. So I've got negative 56 divided by 8. What do I have? A negative divided by a positive, that's going to be negative, and 56 divided by 8 is 7. What's the only thing that's going to hang up a student? Times tables again. If you don't know your times tables, you're not going to know that 8 times 7 makes 56. It's going to be real tough for you, so learn your times tables. Next one, negative 42 over negative 7. Negative 42 divided by negative 7. That's what? A negative divided by a negative, which works the same way as a negative times a negative. What's that going to be? Positive. What's 42 divided by 7? 6. You know your times table. 7 times 6 makes 42. That's how you know this one as well. Okay? You okay? All right, stop me, slow me down. What's this one, everybody, without me writing anything down? 0 or undefined? Undefined. Undefined is when 0 is on the bottom. 0 is when 0 is on top. Okay? All right, back to some regular problems. Negative 20 over negative 10. Which one is this? 2 negatives. 2 negatives make a positive. 20 divided by 10 is 2. That one's not too bad. Doing okay, everybody? All right, slow me down. All right, negative 510 divided by negative 3. Let's talk this one through. Do this. Negative 510 divided by negative 3. Is my answer going to be positive or negative? Hopefully you said positive, right? And now, in order to actually do this problem, I would just simply do the long division on it. 3 goes into 5 one time. Bring down to 1. 3 goes into 21 7 times. And then, of course, bring down to 0. 3 goes into 0 0 times. So my answer is going to be 170 positive. This is really, really tricky if you don't know your long division. And tricky as well if you don't know your times table. So you got to know 2 major skills here: long division and times tables. I suggest if you're struggling with that a little bit, watch a quick YouTube video on long division. Just do a search on long division. Not hard. There's going to be a bunch of resources for it. It's not bad at all. Okay. We okay? All right. Ooh. Well, let's see what we can do here. So this is a tricky problem because, of course, there's a big long division problem in here. Remember I said before, always work left to right in pairs? Same is true for this one. Let's go see if we can tackle this problem. So in order to do this problem, the first thing I need to do is attack negative 1,368 divided by 76. I know a negative and a positive are going to make a negative. So what I need to do is off to the side here, I'm going to go do the long division on 1,368 divided by 76. Now, I know, and here's the deal. If you are going to struggle with this long division, I don't blame you. This is going to be a rare problem. You're not going to see very many of them. So if you can do it, that's all the better to practice with it. If not, it's not going to make or break you for the semester. But you should try to get it done. Does 76 go into 1? No. Does 76 go into 13? No. Does 76 go into 36? Yes. How many times? Well, double that would be 140 something, because I'm doing that in my head, because I know 70, about 70, doubled would be 140, which would already be bigger than this. So I know it's only going to go into it 1 time. Then subtract 0, 60. Bring down the 8. Now, will 76 go into 608? Yes. How many times? Geez, I don't know. I can take an estimate. 85, 87, 8 times. So 76 times 8, 48, 56, 60, 8 times. So exactly, works out nice and clean as it should. And so 18 is the result of this division, which is very tricky. I wouldn't blame you if it was tough for you. Okay, divided by -6 and then finish off the problem. -18 divided by -6 is going to be a negative divided by negative, which is +3. This is not an easy problem, not because of the actual concept, but because of the hard long division that's involved with it. Okay, that's what makes this one a little bit tricky. All right? You're not supposed to use a calculator in this class, but if you're doing your homework, I can't stop you. I just challenge you to try to do it by hand like I did. Just try, okay? All right? There's that. All right, let's look at this one. We're almost done. Okay, so I'm gonna move this one here. Let's do it right here. So I've got 56 divided by -2 times -4. Now, what did I say you should do? Work left to right. Now, a lot of you would do, PEMDAS, multiplication before division. But when you have multiplication side by side with division, you go left to right. You don't do the multiplication first. If you have multiplication side by side with division, you work left to right. So 56 divided by -2, that actually comes first. Okay, what's 56 divided by -2? -28. Now, if you can't do that fast, it's okay. Work it by hand. This is multiplication. One more here. Negative 28 times negative 4, that's going to end up being positive. I need to do some work on the side. So 32, 8, 112. So if you got to do your work on the side, I don't blame you. I just want to reiterate that times tables, times tables, times tables, all section long. It's a lot of times tables work, okay? Perfect, we're gonna finish right on time. Any questions about number 18? Okay, all right. Just got to do your times tables. That's what makes this a little bit tricky, is just working on that. Okay, number 19. Let me see here. Yeah, let's do 19. Okay. So these are all really, really tricky because there's so much extra side work that's involved with them. So here we go. I've got 32 divided by 2 times negative 8 divided by 4. All right, so for the first time, I'm gonna number my steps. I'm gonna number my steps so that you guys can see what to do first and so on. Number 1, do the stuff in parentheses. Step 1 in your problem, work the items in parentheses. Negative 8 divided by 4 is negative 2. And I'm going to write everything else down. All right? I'm going to make this one my last problem. 20, I'm going to leave it all to you, for you to do. One problem where I just don't show it to you. So this is going to be my last problem for the day. Okay? Got it? Following the steps with me? Ready for step 2? Step 2. I've got division next to multiplication. Work left to right. Now, the question is, Andrew, wait, why did you do this if you're supposed to work left to right? Because you're always supposed to do the stuff in parentheses first. Then, all the other stuff. 32 divided by 2, that one's not so bad. 16. Then write everything else out. Got your second step done? You okay? Last step. 16 times negative 2. A positive times a negative, negative 32, and we're done. Okay? Got it?